The needs of our nation's veterans.
Once they take off the uniform can be vast.
And our veteran service organizations
play a vital role in the overall health
of our nation's veteran population.
In a time where our world is focused on mental wellness,
whether it is your own or another,
reach out to veterans.
Check in, see how they're doing, and thank them for their service.
And consider giving or volunteering with organizations that support veterans directly.
Together we can make a difference in the lives of those that have served.
Reminder for us to check in with our loved ones and connect. Hello everyone, Stephen Hill here of CBS's Magnum PI. I am so proud and honored to be here and to welcome you all. On behalf of Paramount Veterans Network, welcome to a very special Coffee with Vets session. Today, TV along with 1,700 partners are gathering today to drive culture from mental health awareness to mental health action. Paramount Veterans Network, in collaboration with VSO partners, Vets, FourBlock, GI Go Fund, Homebase, JobPath, Movember, Operation Homefront, Student Veterans of America, Veterans in Media and Entertainment, and Wounded Warrior Project bring you today's panel discussion, Making Connections for Mental Health and Wellness, that will be moderated by CBS New York's very own John Elliott. This panel will be sure to inspire and move us all into action. But before we begin the discussion with our distinguished panel of veterans and mental health experts, we have an incredible mental wellness activity brought to you by FourBlock. Now, to our audience, please note that this is an interactive session. If you have any questions, please feel free to submit them in the Q&A box below, and we will answer some at the end. Thank you. Now, without further ado, please welcome Dr. Lisa Stern and Marina Rabinec of FourBlock, who will lead us with an activity about connection.
Thanks, Stephen. We're really, both Marina and I and FourBlock are just incredibly honored to be here today, and thanks so much for including us. For those that don't know, very quickly, FourBlock focuses on helping transitioning service members and veterans to build meaningful connections as a necessary and critical career skill. So as Stephen said, everything today is going to be all about connection. So research tells us that social connectedness is found to be a strong and consistent predictor of mental health year after year. When people feel connected, they have lower levels of anxiety and depression. Today, more than ever, it's important to cultivate and sustain human connection. Our mental health actually depends on it. A recent Kaiser Family Foundation poll found that 45%, nearly half of all Americans, say the coronavirus pandemic has negatively impacted their mental health. I think we can all agree that these past few years have impacted all of us in many different ways. We've changed how we work, we've changed how we shop, how our kids go to school. We've also changed the way we connect with one another. Hugs and high fives have gone away, and virtual meetings and get-togethers, mainly through Zoom, no offense, is the way that we are experiencing life. Many of us continue to work remotely, and some will continue to do that for quite some time. But there is one thing that hasn't changed, and that's the benefit that we do receive from connecting and cultivating a sense of connection. Good social connections help us to build our resilience, improve our physical and mental health, and good social connections help us cope with the stresses of everyday life. Feeling connected also helps us create more empathy between one another, and this leads to stronger relationships across our communities. A kind action or an expression of gratitude really can go a long way. But recognizing, building, and maintaining social connections isn't always easy. Keep in mind the fact that when we show caring for one another, we help to create positive connections, which in turn creates positive communities. So with that in mind, we'd like to take you through an activity that we call 3-2-1 action, because meaningful social connectedness requires intention. Marina?
Hey, Lisa, thank you so much. The goal of this activity is for you to identify the people in your life who support you. Identify the people in your life whom you support and think about ways to be intentional about your connections. And while you are all participating remotely, Stephen has kindly volunteered to participate with you, but he's going to be on camera with us. Amazing, great. Hey, are you ready, Stephen?
I'm ready.
Okay. So we're going to dive, you're going to do great, and we're going to dive right in. Okay. So everyone take a minute to think about the people in your life who support you. This could be coworkers, neighbors, friends, family, etc. What I want you to do is write down the names of those 3 people. Next to the names, list one thing each one does to make you feel supported or to help you. And then think about how their actions make you feel. Okay, Stephen, how are you doing? You got your 3?
Yes.
Okay. So next, I would like you to think about some of the people in your life that you support and what you do to support them. So next, we're going to write down the names of 2 people. Next to their names, list something you do for each one of them that lets them know that you care and are thinking about them. And how do you think your actions make them feel? So I know we've done 3 and 2. Stephen, who were your 3 people that you had chosen for the people that you support?
My father, my sister, and my best friend.
Awesome. I love that. And what ways do you support them? Or I'm sorry, in what ways do they support you?
They often check in on me. You'd be surprised, as an actor, you know, people have a tendency to believe that you've got it all figured out and everything's fine with you because you're just successful. Like, you know, that's what successful people do. They're just fine. They don't need anything. But these are people that can see past that, and they know me personally. So they know that, you know, they can tell just by looking at me that I might not be okay.
And I think that's beautiful that you have that kind of connection with them. What about the 2 people that you support? Who were those 2 people?
I support my father. I definitely support, I put down my younger brother, support him.
That's great. Okay, so then the last one, finally, I want you to think about anyone in your life who needs checking in on, like you were talking about. This could be somebody that you've lost touch with, someone who might be struggling, or someone you've been thinking about. So we're going to write down the name of that one person and why this person needs checking in on. And then write down one action that you can take today to connect with this person. And so think about this as an intentional act of kindness. You know, what will you do to connect with this person and let him or her, or let them know that you care? Who is that person for you, Stephen?
I put down one of my absolute best friends.
Mm-hmm.
And she's going through a tough time right now with family, and so I can support by just making a phone call, sending flowers, asking if there's anything I could do to help, you know, and then, you know, just sending the phone call and maybe trying to do video call and just make sure everything's okay, and just let them know that I'm there for them.
That you're there. I love that. So this is where intentionally making space for connection can fulfill our basic human need. And on top of that, take our mental well-being to a higher level. The breadth and depth of the meaning in our relationships is one of the greatest predictors of long-term levels of happiness that we have. Thank you so much for doing this activity, Stephen. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess it is now my job to introduce to you our moderator for the panel discussion, CBS New York's John Elliott, who can be seen on CBS2 and on CBS News New York streaming service, forecasting weather, reporting in our local communities, and showcasing small-owned businesses in his Small Business Saturday segments. Throughout John's career, he has reported from numerous bases and posts throughout the nation as troops were deployed and spent time on board the USS Abraham Lincoln. Please welcome John. Thank you, John, for moderating an important topic with our distinguished panel.
And thank you, Stephen. And I got to tell you something right now. I'm a TV weatherman in New York, so I did a morning show, I did a noon show. I'm pretty sure I have the most makeup on of anybody on the panel. And Stephen, it's not fair because he was too smooth. That was a little too smooth. He was noticing his eye line. It's like he's using a prompter. He's a genius. So look, you know, I'm going to look down at my notes because I feel like I need to. I feel like I'm in over my head. I am honored and I'm overwhelmed just at the breadth of experience that our panelists bring to this. And so I want to just dive right in, and I apologize initially for overlooking key points, some key points, but I want to introduce you to Karen Kraft because I find her fascinating. So, you know, she was Veteran of the Year. She's just served. She was also, she's a showbiz. She began her career at Discovery Channel, which I'm sure some of you have heard of. So many great shows, so many biographies, so many documentaries. And she's also, I love this, currently managing partner of Hero Media Group, LLC. Here's what I like about that. Karen is committed to women and veteran causes and finding a place for them in media. And that is so crucial because it's so much of this is about the messaging and what people know about the community. So again, let's see, American Legion, she's been, Snow Leopard, this is this co-founder of this great Operation Snow Leopard, very, very active and very connected. So I'm looking forward to that. Next, I'm going to introduce you to, and this one scares me a little because this guy is serious. Command Sergeant Major, and I hope I got that right, Saeed Mustafa, 30-year career in the United States Army. Again, thank you all for your service. So let's see, a squad leader during Persian Gulf, 4 tours as company first sergeant, 2 combat tours as battalion commander sergeant major, 2 Bronze Star medals. Supply chain logistics, emergency management operations, suicide prevention, and then that was just the beginning. Multiple awards and giving back. He is all about resiliency and resiliency training, and we're going to talk about that. Again, great respect for Dr. Antoinette Wallace. This is not supposed to be, I guess, an easy discussion. I'm fascinated by this because she saw the towers go down. She's from Staten Island. She saw the attack on 9/11. She enlisted in the Army National Guard as a paralegal. She wanted to serve. She was moved by like thousands. And then she was deployed in 2004. She was sexually assaulted by a fellow soldier. She wrestled with the communication of the event to superiors. And since then, she has suffered, but through the VA treatment program, Wounded Warrior program, and other programs she's going to talk about, she shed a light on that by sharing her pain. And now she's one of the smartest on the panelists, if not the smartest. She's the doctor of pharmacology or something I can't even say in New Jersey. This another one. Here's another one. It's like, why is the hippy dippy weatherman introducing a brigadier general in the United States Air Force? But would like to welcome Brigadier General Robert D. Thomas, 31 years in the United States Air Force. And he led the Gene M. Holmes Center for Office Ascensions and Citizen Development. And to distill that, what he was responsible for was the training and coordinating and assisting of 81% of the officer corps of the United States Air Force. So we're going to be talking about leadership and also suicide prevention. And then we're going to end with Michelle, and we're going to start with Michelle. Michelle Carlson is the U.S. Director for Mental Health and Suicide Prevention for Movember. Some of you may know Movember. It's where we encourage, it's a mass media, it's a great grassroots program. We encourage men to grow a mustache. And it's like, well, you're growing a mustache. Why? Because of cancer for men and also suicide prevention for men. It's a huge problem. And it's a great novel way to get the message on television and then also to get people talking about it. She's served on the board of directors for the Los Angeles chapter of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, spearheading local, state, national campaigns against suicide prevention, and also working tirelessly for homeless initiatives and veterans initiatives. And now I would like to start with Michelle, because I just think time is precious and I feel mercenary doing this. But I know that suicide has touched your life. Could you tell us how real suicide has been for you and why this problem needs to be addressed, particularly in the veterans community?
Absolutely. And thank you so much, John, for the introduction. And just to be a part of this esteemed panel of panelists is really quite an honor. So thank you. So my life has been touched. I actually came into the suicide prevention field after losing 4 loved ones to suicide. So including my father, who was actually a mental health professional, a psychiatrist, and also served as a major in the Army. So back in 1975, he joined the Army as the chief of psychiatry on the base at Fort Benning, Georgia, and was really drawn to help those returning service members from the Vietnam War. And he continued to treat vets throughout his career. And then later on in life, when he retired, he sort of forced himself into retirement and really, I think, lost that sense of sort of identity and purpose and giving back. And unfortunately fell into deep depression, started using substances, drinking, and couldn't, unfortunately, just became overwhelmed by the pain that he was feeling. And, obviously at the time, my family and I were not attuned to what to look for and what was going on. I think being someone that has always prided himself on helping others and keeping the group together and being a leader, I think that was so difficult for him to be, needing help, reaching out for help, made him potentially feel, weak or not like he could have everything together. And so I felt as though, it was such a reflection that even a mental health professional felt that they couldn't reach out for help. And so I've dedicated myself really to this work, and I see it not as a job, but really as my life's mission to help others better understand, what to look for, what kind of help they can reach out for, and be able to start that conversation where it doesn't feel threatening and it feels safe to those who might be struggling.
I would like to dig into this with General Thomas, if I can. And again, bulletin, we haven't rehearsed any of this. General Thomas, is this a problem that veterans feel like they're bulletproof, and after they leave the service, they feel, you have to be careful with terms, but it's kind of that they can handle it, and then when they can't, this is the option they take?
Well, I think that is certainly part of it. In the military, values strength, and especially the more senior you get, like Command Sergeant Major Saeed there, his troops are looking up to him. And certainly when I was a flag officer, my airmen are looking to me, and you don't want to show weakness, but we're all humans. And in the end, I'm just Robert Thomas. I'm not General Thomas. And there can be some barriers to seeking the help you need. And unfortunately, I've had similar experiences where if we'd have just known, or if that airman in my case would have just told someone, we could have highlighted, wow, this is a temporary problem we can help you get through. But for whatever reason, they felt like they had to hold it all inside and had a very bad outcome.
So a friend of mine is a Congressional Medal of Honor recipient. He was awarded that for duties in Vietnam. And he said one of the overarching problems is without the draft, it's a segregated society. When there was a draft, everybody knew somebody who was in. So after service, everybody knew somebody who had served. But it seems like it's all silos, that nobody reaches out across that. And I think that is a big problem too, because we don't really understand the veteran mindset.
I think there's a lot of truth to that. In my last job, I ran officer training school in ROTC for the Air Force, and a lot of military service tends to run in families. And my experience at the Air Force Academy was the person didn't want to be there. And they felt a lot of pressure to succeed because they didn't want to let down mom or dad or disgrace their family. And they felt like they had no option. You know, they just were a complete failure, when in fact they should have put their hand up and said, you know, I'm not the right person for this. I need to go to another school.
This is a perfect segue. I want to bring in Antoinette, because Antoinette, I read that your family was pivotal in your road to I don't want to say healing. I think that might be a little maudlin, but your road to recovery. How can you walk us through, to the degree you're comfortable, what you went through, but more importantly, how you got through it?
Sure, John. So I served in Iraq from 2004 to 2005. When I came back home, I was only 20 years old. Didn't know much about the world at that point. I had never been out on my own before going out to Iraq. So I did struggle for quite a number of years with the invisible wounds of war. I held it in for as long as I could and tried to become so busy that I wouldn't even think about the trauma that I had experienced and the people that I had lost. But when life kind of slowed down a little bit and I wasn't as busy going to school full time, working a full-time job, and all I had to do was go to work and come home and go to bed, that's when it hit me like a ton of bricks. However, my parents, whom I still lived with after getting my doctorate, they knew something was kind of wrong, but neither of them had served in the military. There wasn't a very long line of military service in my family, so they didn't really know how to help me. So one night when I was on my way home from the pharmacy, I just felt absolutely horrible, and I could have done one of two things. I could have asked for help, or I could have taken my own life. And thankfully, I chose to ask my parents for help. And, you know, they were sleeping when I got home, and I actually crawled into bed with them and said, you know, I really need help. I can't do this alone anymore. And I ended up sleeping in between them for a couple of weeks before they were able to find me some help from the VA. So without my family, I don't know. Well, I'm almost positive I wouldn't be here right now. I'm very blessed to have the both of them. And they still care for me to this day, even at my age, no longer living there, but they are still very involved in my recovery.
Did you actually mouth the words, "I'm thinking of taking my own life"?
So what I remember is basically saying that I was scared that I was going to harm myself. You know, whether it be taking a bunch of pills or doing something reckless just to not feel that pain, to just numb. So yeah, and more or less words, maybe not exactly, but you know, saying that I was scared that I was going to harm myself was definitely something that I shared with them.
Because see, I think that moment in time, that's a key point that so many need to get to and so many bypass. So I appreciate that. I would like to ask Command Sergeant Major Saeed Mustafa, what does it take to make a veteran resilient, and why is resiliency so important? This follows nicely with everything we're talking about.
Yeah, thanks, John, for asking. I tell you, this panel is more powerful than I anticipated. As I'm listening to everybody, I'm just sitting here reflecting on my career and my transition and my feelings, and right now I'm getting as much counseling as I need from each one of these people. But in terms of resilience, you know, I think it's as simple as an analogy about a ball and an egg. If you drop a ball, it bounces back. If you drop an egg, it breaks. And so what I try to do is promote this idea of being able to bounce back from adversity, not being perfect, not making no mistakes in life, because we know that's impossible, right? But the general touched on it. You know, as a military leader who has ascended the ranks at the highest levels, oftentimes the persona is you make no mistakes. The persona is you're perfect. You're looking down to check others, but you're not really, in many cases, thinking about your own self-help and your own self-awareness and your own mental health. And so what I found personally is that I struggled a little bit after getting out. And then fortunately for me, I bounced back by going back home to where I was raised outside of West Point, New York, United States Army Military Academy, where small town, 3,000 people, Highland Falls. You know, the folks that I ran into were my first grade teachers and my Sunday school people and folks who just loved me for being me. As the general said, I wasn't sergeant major then. I was just a kid who grew up around the corner. And at that moment in time, that's what I needed. And so it allowed me to really get in touch with self. So you talk about connections. So the first connection for me was connecting or reconnecting with myself in a true sense of the word. So resilience is about having the ability to overcome adversity and then not worrying about living up to all the expectations that the world puts on you. Just living your life day to day as best as you can, the best quality of life as you can live.
It seems like to me though, and I'm on the outside looking in with great reverence and respect. My dad was Corps of Engineers, and when I went to enlist, they told me, no, President Clinton doesn't like redheads or something. It seems like there's a double standard. Like we don't, when we think of you cats, we don't want you to be vulnerable. We want you to just be strong and almost monolithic. But but veterans need to be vulnerable, right?
You know what? I think you just hit. Is there a bell we can ring? Because you hit the $1 million prize. Because I thought about this a lot. I said, you know, we get rewarded in the military for being tough, for being rough, for being aggressive. You know, nobody wants to be recognized as the person who is a sponge or a softie or, you know, emotional. You know, so then coming out, you know, all of a sudden we're expected to push some sort of imaginary button and turn into something else than what we were created to be inside the military. And that really is the biggest farce that I can think of, because it takes a lot of work to get back to being reconnected as a human being with other human beings in the civilian society.
But again, and I want to say that it's like we're all complicit. You know, the people that aren't in the military are probably more complicit. So I want to bring in Karen Kraft. And Karen, I'm fascinated by your bio. I'm fascinated by what you do. But what about the messages? And I love how you want veterans to get involved in media. What is the media getting wrong here? And what not only can we do, but what are you doing to help the messaging to keep people connected? I don't hear Karen.
Well, John, you hear me now, and I am
There
fascinating. So I want to agree with you. I'm very fascinating. But thank you for that. And it's and listening to this panel and all the experiences everybody has. Mine was much shorter in the military, but I love my industry. I worked at Discovery Channel. I produce, I create stories, and I love helping my fellow veterans following that path. There's two ways they follow that path. First, with our group, it's about creating a career about love of story and being able to connect to your personal experiences and sharing them with other veterans. And the second, it is therapeutic. So it's two different ways of looking at the arts. So what the media usually, when we started this group 10 years ago, it was two young men that started it, and I got involved right away. It's really about helping veterans find their way into the industry, which is, there's no roadmap once you got out of the military. The military is such a clear, structured way of life, and even how you behave. You just all talked about having the strength and always being perceived as strong. One of the things that I found unusual about that, when I would love the military embrace, is that we all have cycles. We all know in the military we have to recharge our batteries and get rest. So part of that cycle is also recognizing you have ups and downs and how to manage them. And you manage them through connections. You manage them through finding what works for you. Those exercises we did in the beginning I thought were very helpful. And also, we also look to storytelling. We look to cultural representation. So if veterans can also be part of that storytelling process, I think it's very, very helpful. So that's what I'm trying to help people with. And
well, I want to follow up then with Stephen, because Stephen is an actor. When you're, obviously you want to do the best you can, and you want to just knock it out of the park. I mean, what kind of responsibility do you feel when you take on any role of a veteran?
I would say you want to research, and first and foremost, you just want to recognize that you are playing this role, right? These are people that actually went through this stuff. So you have to approach it with a very serious amount of respect, first and foremost, for the people that actually served, the people that went through all of those things. And then they come home and, you know, they are like you said, they're expected to be a different person, you know, and they had a certain level of importance while they were in, and then they come home and they feel very, very, very lonely. And, you know, I kind of understand how that feels right now, being on a show that is unfortunately no longer on the air, and you become all these things to so many people around you, right? Everybody looks up to you. Everybody, oh my God, I'm so happy for you. This, that, and the third. But I'm still a human in the world, and I still feel, right? And that's just me playing a soldier on television, and I feel my heart being ripped out by not being able to do it anymore. So I could just only imagine. I know that my experience skims the surface of so many soldiers that are actually coming home or that are actually there. And, you know, to be able to play that and to play it with care is a blessing. And I'll take what Mr. Curry said in our last Coffee with Vets. He said his advice was to just keep it moving, you know, and I got to take his advice, and I got to keep it moving. And I know that it's easier said than done, you know, but I understand what the vets are going through. And
you know, I just think there's such a huge disconnect. People that aren't veterans or don't know a veteran. I was on the USS Abraham Lincoln. We fly out to Pearl Harbor. We go and we rendezvous with, it was the mission accomplished banner. And so we're pulling into San Diego, and I'm interviewing a young lady, and I said, who are you most looking forward to seeing? And she said, my baby. I said, well, how old's your baby? She said, he's going to be a year. He's going to be a year. You've been gone for 9 months. And people don't realize the sacrifice. And also people have no clue about the families. It's not just the person gone, it's the people left behind. And I want to get back to Michelle about that. So Michelle, obviously your father, horrible loss. How are there any stats? Is there any way to encapsulate this? How big of a problem is this in the veteran community, suicide in the veteran community?
Yeah, well, the suicide rate is actually 52% higher in veterans than in those Americans that have not had military service. And unfortunately, in that first year of transition back to civilian life is when the risk is the highest. Unfortunately, only about half of returning military seek help for mental health needs. And I think for all the reasons that we've been talking about, you know, I think that transition back to civilian life is so difficult in the sense of, you know, you miss the structure of military life, that sense of purpose, that sort of camaraderie with a singular mission, and going back to sort of civilian life, you know, having those habits that helped keep you strong in those most difficult of moments doesn't always serve or translate as well when you go back to civilian life. And so I think Saeed hit the nail on the head when he talked about really being able to recognize connecting to yourself and knowing when you're not okay.
Well, I'm probably going to get yelled at for this, but what are they going to do? Everybody's got like a button, and everybody, I want you all, anybody to jump in there. What's a better way to do this? What should we and what could we be doing?
I think, after you, Stephen, after you.
I was just going to say, you know, I have a therapist, you know, and I know it's important for me to say that because a lot of men, and even Black men in particular, feel like that's not a cool thing to say, you know, that's soft. But I have a therapist, and luckily My therapist happens to be, I've had a woman therapist before, which was great. And the therapist that I have right now is a Black man that's a little bit older than I am. And he walks me through some of the thoughts that I have in my head. And I know that the military has a lot of options for things like that. So I would say, if you don't have family or friends to talk to, you definitely have to find someone else to talk to.
Yeah, I agree. I found, John, that it's, for lack of a better word, we build in the military for different operations, coalitions. And I believe that out here in civilian life, we need a coalition to receive transitioning military members. Because what happens is when you're in the Army or in the Air Force or in the Navy or in the Marine Corps, Coast Guard, as you're in it, it's a fast-paced machine that everybody's, used to being on. But then when you're transitioning, you're not a part of that anymore, really. That thing is moving along without you. Now, there's a lot of programs. There's a TAP, Transition Assistant Program. I was a counselor, in fact, at West Point for one of the TAP programs. And so you have a couple of weeks to get it together before you get out, work on your resume and some other things. But no disrespect to what's happening inside the service. I mean, it's got to be bigger than that. So what I found here in my community, the coalition includes the superintendent of our school. It includes the president of the Chamber of Commerce. It includes the person at the commander of the American Legion. Myself, 30-year Army veteran, retired Command Sergeant Major. It's the reason why I wear this hat. It ain't for me. It's for other people to be able to recognize me that may need my help. I found that one of the things we do when we transition, and I even did it, is when we take off the uniform, and we served, we're done, we're moving on, but then we can't see each other. We can't recognize the person that's hurting, and the person who's hurting can't recognize the leader who has something to offer. So the coalition has to be made up of all the components as much as possible throughout the community that can help address the needs of the incoming personnel, meaning the newly transitioned. My opinion.
And John,
Yeah.
if I may add to that, I agree with you, Command Sergeant Major, and Stephen, thank you for being so open about that. I think it's good to always have leaders, role model things. I look to my leaders to help as well and to speak publicly, but I say, I agree with it. And in the civilian terms, build a team and also be a good teammate. And so the exercise that I thought that FourBlock did so well today is that it's forcing us to write down things that we just think of instead of just saying something and then process what that means. And then how can I be a good teammate to someone else? Because the military is all about the mission and the team, and you look out for each other. Production, when you talk about media, John, is also about the team, right? You have to make air, you have to get this delivered, right? So there's a sense of real family. And then after productions, or when you leave the military, you lose that connection. And the reason why we call our group, Veterans of Media Entertainment, our platform, VME Connect, is we're just trying to help veterans connect with each other, to find each other. You don't have to be each other's best friend, but you might find one if you put yourself out there and start asking how you can be a good teammate. And you might find that help comes back, right? So it's learning how to ask for help and give help, and finding that that's actually what makes you stronger, is that we need all those spokes on the wheel to keep running, and we need a lot of people around each other. And that is one of the things I try to tell my fellow veterans, is that there is no perfect roadmap in life, especially when you leave the military, where you can literally see how you can advance and what you have to do, how to advance. In the civilian world, and especially in Hollywood, words, it's very confusing, right? And there is no roadmap, and that roadmap is blown up regularly. So you need to find that teammate and those teammates. And some of these people on this panel, like all of you, are leaders, and all of you are givers. And I imagine you also have leaders in your life. Because Stephen said the best, I thought, and I'm so sorry about your show because I loved it. And that's just I'm going to call someone, Stephen, when we're done. So we're going to straighten that up. But also, leaders also need helpers, right? And they need someone each. And so in the military, you're taught to be both a leader and a servant. And we need to remember that as a civilian to help each other out. And just the vulnerability that some of you have shown today. I mean, I'm deeply moved and proud to be here.
All right, I'm going to break in real quick because I have a question for Antoinette, and I'm going to read this right to you. This is from Michael. I served with Antoinette and want to tell her never forget, that's their division motto, and that she's a strong leader in the veterans community. His question, how can we get more veterans into a safe space to speak with peers and be willing to get further help if need be?
So, hi, Michael. It's good to know that you're here listening. Michael and I actually have the same birthday, and we figured that out on our way back from Iraq, that we had the same birthday. But we didn't keep in touch for a couple years, but then luckily through Wounded Warrior Project, we reconnected, and it was like we didn't, skip a beat. But I'm sure Michael can also relate to this. It's you're ripped out of your civilian life, and then you're thrown into the military, and as a National Guard member, and then you go to war, and then you come back, and it's just like go back to your regular life, what you were doing beforehand, and it's just like your head is spinning. So I do really think that we could definitely do a better job at creating follow-ups of especially people that were in active duty like myself. It's just a very big transition to go from all or nothing, and that's where I struggled, where I felt like I was in limbo, where I couldn't connect with my friends because I didn't understand what I went through, but then I lost touch with all my military buddies, and I just had nobody, and that's why I held it in for a very long time. But yes, never forget was our motto, 42nd ID. Since we were the New York National Guard, a lot of the people we served with were actually boots on ground at ground zero. So it was very personal, and it was something that really deeply touched almost everyone I deployed with. I think that also transitioning out of the military, it would be helpful to know what resources are available, such as Wounded Warrior Project or the VA. It took me almost 10 years to figure out that was even an option for me to get involved with. And if that was there to begin with, it would have been a game changer. I don't think it would have gotten as bad as it did. So, but I'm happy that this organization, Wounded Warrior Project and my family, they got me out of it, and I'm living a happy, healthy, successful life again.
But he mentioned the word safe space. I mean, did you feel? I mean, we're talking about primarily mental health and suicide prevention, but yours was sexual assault, and obviously there's some criminality to that. I mean, did you feel threatened by just the military or any kind of roadblocks that were put up, or did you feel like you had I don't want to say easy, but a clear path where you could report it safely to your superiors?
I didn't feel like I had any of that. I didn't, after the assault happened, I lost trust, since it was someone superior to me. I lost trust in the people that were higher ranking than me. And it just took one incident for that to happen. So the shame, as well as being a woman and going through that, it's not something that I wanted anybody to know at that point. I just was thinking in my head, I'm going to go get home, and all of this, as long as I get home safe, it'll all just be a blur, and it won't no longer like take hold of me. But I did not feel like I had a safe, when they're in your chain of command, who are you going to report it to? So it's difficult. I know they are making some strides to take that out of the immediate people in your unit. So I think that will go a long way when it comes to being able to report things and feel safe.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to start a round robin with you, because I'm looking at you right now, Antoinette. This is from Will. He asked this question to our veterans: what words of encouragement would you say today to your past self, newly transitioning out of military service?
I think the first thing I would say to myself is it's okay to not feel okay. It's okay to show that weakness. Like the Command Sergeant Major said, like, you're not supposed to show weakness. You don't want to be that softy. But I think just making yourself vulnerable and having the ability to express how you're feeling and not feel like you need to apologize or hide it. So, you know, I wasn't even 21 years old when I got home, and I was not, I didn't feel like an adult at that point still. So looking back, I would say to myself, it's okay to talk about how you're feeling. It doesn't make you less of a soldier. It doesn't make you less of a person or weak.
General Thomas, what would you have said to yourself right when you were leaving the United States Air Force?
Well, what a great question. I would have said, don't get discouraged. I mean, you're a great guy. You've always been a great guy. You will find another organization to work for that thinks you're a great guy, but it's going to take time. And I think in my current job, current role, I see most veterans, it's a rocky year. That first year you get out, most go through 2 or 3 jobs before they find that job that works for them. It sounds great on paper. It's a great talking point, but when it's you, it's a lot harder. And so sure enough, it did work out for me, but it took about 8 months. And I don't necessarily want to do that again, but I do want to emphasize to everyone else out there, you're still the great person you always were. And there's a company or an organization that needs you, and it may take some time, but they'll find you and you'll have a very bright future.
Command Sergeant Major Saeed Mustafa, what would you have said to yourself as you were leaving service?
Well, I had a feeling you were going to pick me, John.
Why not?
And so, but the general hit the nail on the head, and he said something, quite frankly, just a trigger for me, because, you know, coming out, I remember as I was still trying to do Army stuff, one of my leaders said, "Hey, Sergeant Major, you need to shift your focus. I don't think you quite understand what's about to happen when you cross the line of debarkation into civilian life," because I was still doing all the Army stuff. And so I would say to myself, it's okay to start to think more about you and your family, and to start to prepare yourself for life after the military, number one. Number two, like the general said, I'm one of those people. I haven't found the job that would be the greatest job ever after the military. I've had a couple, and usually it lasts a year and a few months or whatever. And I just didn't sit well with me. So what I like to do is advocate for veterans and go out and take care of senior citizens and other things like that. So, but I thought it was just me until a couple of days ago, I talked to the spouse of one of my clients when I was a transition counselor and asked, how is he doing? This person is a full bird colonel. This person is a retired special forces guy. First job out, he was the chief of staff of some big hospital, but now he's on the 3rd job or the 4th, and it's not so bright and rosy. So the point I make is the general was spot on that you know what, we have to be patient. We have to understand that may be part of the process, but it doesn't make us bad, and it doesn't make us invaluable. So I would tell myself to be patient and find the thing that makes you want to do it, whether you get paid or not, and get up in the morning with passion and have a positive mindset.
Karen, what would you have said?
Sorry, thank you. Command Sergeant Major, you say it right all the time, so eloquent. I would say to myself, seek out mentors sooner. Seek out people who've been through that path immediately, instead of trying to kick around and figure this out on your own. Because build that team, be a good teammate, ask a lot more questions sooner versus wait for the kind of the depression of separation to really hit, and then feel like you're the only person that's ever felt that because everybody else has managed to get through. I would tell myself to be patient, and then also try different organizations. I know Antoinette talked about the Wounded Warrior Project. Try many, because you have to find it out. You like many different flavors in life. You like many different foods that you eat. You have friends with many different personalities. You should try many organizations, and you should not ever feel, I would tell myself, taking jobs and exploring what makes you happy is part of the process, versus it's a failure not to find that right fit right away. And that process is going to keep happening over and over again. And it's part of our, just grown up a little bit, right? So that's what I would tell myself is seek that help right away, seek those organizations right away, try them on, and you'll find that fit faster, and you'll find that team to help you faster.
So I mean, I'm looking at my clock. I can't believe that this, does it seem like this has gone by quickly? Nod heads.
You're doing an amazing job, John. Yeah. You're a natural.
I want to give you guys each an opportunity, and I'm putting you all on the spot. If there is if there's an organization or something you would like to share or promote right here, I want to give you that platform to do it, because so many different groups are represented here. We have Karen up now. How can they reach you? And is there anything else you'd like to share?
I'd like to share my thanks to you all. Reach out to us at www.vmeconnect.org. We don't charge membership because I want people to feel that they can come and go through the cycles. As Stephen has articulated, you can be on a high on a show and it can be randomly lost for no real understandable reason. And I want people to feel they can come back without going through that process. That's why we never charge membership, just a one-time fee to actually make sure you're a vet, because we have to. But other than that, I want you to know that you're welcome and to come and try to find some teammates that are interested in the arts and exploration, and also tell you how they succeeded. And I'll put it right, I'll put our address in the chat right here. And thank you. Yeah.
Well, I think Hollywood could do a much better job, and I think we need more. Well, we need insight is what we need, and you know, that cinema verite of veteran life is important. Antoinette, is there? I know you've worked with organizations. Is there anything you'd like to share or promote or direct some of your fellow veterans to?
Absolutely. So, Wounded Warrior Project was absolutely a game changer for me. So, they can be looked up on the web at www.woundedwarriorproject.org. And there's another organization that's that actually helps veterans learn how to surf. It's called Operation Surf, and they're incredible as well. They're not as big as an organization, but just being able to get into the water and just have that like team effort of catching that wave. They are great too. So especially when it comes to meeting up again with your service members that you haven't seen in a long time or that you may never have met. So those two organizations have been pivotal for me. So I think that you should check both of them out, and also Adaptive Sports Foundation in Windham, New York, to get active. They will help you pick up a new sport, because getting active was something that was really important for me for my mental health. But I feared harming myself, hurting myself, falling. You know, I wasn't as healthy as I used to be. So adaptive sports is also something that is very near and dear to my heart.
Fantastic. Robert, I know you worked with so many officers in the Air Force. Any organizations, any agencies? The Zoom is yours.
Well, I have to help get the word out about Operation Homefront, where I work now. Our mission is to help build strong, stable, secure military families so they thrive, not struggle to get by, but thrive in those communities they work so hard to protect. We have a whole portfolio of programs to do that. One of our biggest is our critical financial assistance program. So you're in between jobs, you can't make your rent, you can't make your car payment. We want to be there for you. You know, our military families have been there for all of us in our nation's time of need. And when they need a little help, we want to be there for them. So you just go to our website at operationhomefront.org, one-stop shopping. You can apply for help right there. You can read about all of our programs. And we really want to be there and help you and your family get to where you want to be.
Command Sergeant Major Saeed Mustafa.
All right. So to your audience, I want to say any veteran out there, any first responder, any nurse, teacher, student, anyone out there that is struggling with mental health issues, 4 things I want you to do is connect with yourself, connect with your family, connect with your community, and connect with a higher power. In terms of organizations, I'm going to promote therapeutic equestrian services, therapeutic equine assisted equestrian services. That, for those who don't know, is using horses to heal humans. Around the country, there's organizations like Thorncroft Equestrian Center in Malvern, Pennsylvania. There's the Lazy J Ranch in up in Salisbury, Massachusetts. There's the Endeavor Horsemanship Therapeutic Program in Mount Kisco, New York. There is the Remount Foundation out in Colorado Springs, Colorado, which is affiliated with the Air Force Academy. Actually, they use the ranch there on the Air Force Academy. And then there is one that is a psychotherapy that is phenomenal out in right outside Houston, Texas. It's called the Brooks Ridge Ranch. Dr. Beverly Walsh there does a phenomenal job. So if you have not been successful with talk therapy, try Therapeutic Equine. And lastly, I'll leave you with the one right here in New York City. For those of us who are urbanites, you can go to the Gallup NYC. They have 2 farms in New York City, of all places, one in Howard Beach and one in Forest Hills. And I will be riding a horse with those folks on Sunday, May 22nd, through Central Park at 10 a.m. The Sergeant Major will be on the back of a horse. So get out there. And by the way, John, I wrote a book called Resilient Transition: How to Combat Stress and Anxiety Using Music, Meditation, and a Positive Mindset. I highly recommend you go to Amazon and get that book. If you can't afford it, just look me up, www.csmmustafa.com, and I'll send the book to you for free.
Hey, and real quick, the heat index is going to be about 92 on that horse. So lots of water. Make sure that.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Michelle, let us, I know so many great organizations. Is there something you would like to share with the folks that are tuning in?
Yeah, there's been some great recommendations already, but I think for immediate confidential peer support from another veteran, I think Military One Source and Veterans for Warriors are great organizations. And I think also just reminding people that it starts with a conversation a lot of times, right? We can't always put the onus on others who are struggling, maybe to reach out for help, that we can start a conversation with them. And so Movember's actually developed something to help people navigate those kinds of conversations. So if you go to conversations.movember.com, that's usually the hardest part is knowing how to start that conversation. So it can provide some help to help guide you to do that.
And there we go. We're almost wrapping it up where we started. Conversation and connection, which is where we started, and it's why it's so important. Want to do, in the spirit of that, we have one final activity, and it's a way for us to connect, even though we're not physically together. I do feel closer. Do we all feel a little closer? Nodding heads. I'm saying, yeah. So I'd like to invite John McCaskill, a retired, listen to this, Navy SEAL commander and mindfulness and meditation teacher, to guide us in a quick meditation. John, it's yours.
Thank you, John, and good afternoon. I'm honored to be here with you all today. I'll be leading you through a 5-minute breathing meditation that you can use anytime, anywhere, to regain calm, clarity, and confidence. To begin, go ahead and become physically still wherever you are, either lying down, sitting, or standing, and choose a posture where you'll be as comfortable as possible. And if closing your eyes is comfortable, I invite you to do that. Otherwise, just soften your eyelids. I'm just going to soften mine. Bring your awareness to whatever is going on right now. Give the weight of your body up to gravity. Allow your weight to sink into the points of contact between your body and the floor, the chair, the bed, whatever it is you're sitting on. And notice what sensations are there right now. Do you notice any tension or resistance towards painful or unpleasant sensations? Gently turn towards them. Accept them as best you can. If you begin to tense around these Just breathe and then let go. Let go a little bit more with each out breath. Soften into gravity. Notice any thoughts as they arise and pass through the mind. See if you can let these thoughts just come and go. Observe them as if they're clouds in the sky or waves in the ocean. Notice any feelings and emotions as they arise. Can you let these come and go? Include everything within your awareness with a kind perspective. And now allow your awareness to gather around the experience of the breath deep inside the body. Drop your awareness inside the breath and feel the different sensations in the front, the back, and the sides of the torso. Can you feel your awareness within the flow and the movement of the breath? Use the breath to anchor your awareness in the present moment. Breathing in the body, noticing each inhale and each exhale. Again and again. And if you notice that your mind has wandered off, just gently guide yourself back to the breath deep inside the body. And gently expand your awareness to include your whole body, not just your lungs, not just your chest and belly, your whole body. Feel the weight, feel the shape. Feel yourself, your whole self in this time and in this space as you sit, as you stand, as you lie. If you've got any pain or discomfort, make sure your awareness stays open. Cultivate acceptance or acknowledgement for all your experience. Befriend it even. And use the breath to anchor your awareness in the present moment. Noticing each inhale and exhale again and again. We'll close with one deep cleansing breath together. Begin by breathing out all your air, emptying your lungs, bringing your navel to your spine. Nice deep breath in, filling those lungs and holding at the top and releasing, letting it go. Nice and slow, 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 and start to bring some movement back into your body, moving your head around, maybe rolling your shoulders back. And if your eyes were closed, blink your eyes open. And that concludes the meditation. And I'll turn it back over to you, John. Thank you.
Thank you. That, you know, when you really get into those exercises, it's very profound. It's a little uncomfortable, but you know, it gets you on a path. And thank you to all the panelists for your years of dedicated service and for your time this afternoon and for all the resources you provided. Thank you to the Paramount Veterans Network. And here's something, another little takeaway. If you did enjoy this panel today, we want you to check out the Home Base Nation podcast. All the kids are doing it. 2 episodes in particular address mental health and wellness. One featuring country singer and Army veteran Craig Morgan, and another featuring actor, motivational speaker, and Army veteran J.R. Martinez. And you can find them at homebase.org/homebasenation, or, you know, on Spotify, you can find anything. So you know how to do that. Just want to remind you some of the other takeaways. Remember that exercise. Who supports you? Who do you support? And what can you do both ways? And then what can you do for yourself? So, you know, we all know when you have a cup of coffee, the steam goes up because heat rises. But as a weather guy, we know in the atmosphere, it doesn't necessarily work that way. You can be in a plane, and even on a sunny day, if you run into cold air, that plane will drop like a rock. It's called clear air turbulence. I'm sure the general knows plenty about that. CAT. But you know what? Almost as soon as that plane drops, that invisible force of heat coming from the planet will right the plane. It's just that momentary thrill in the plane. In life, it's far more serious. But remember, there are forces and there are people and programs that are there to help. And I say this with all seriousness. God forbid, if you are there at that moment, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-8255. Even behind the biggest storm cloud, the sun is still shining. Thank you all very much. And the one thing I didn't rehearse other than that is to say goodbye, God bless, and God bless America.